Welcome to Teaching His Story. This is Dr. Brenda McMenamin. It's wonderful to have you with us. We're going over today a page from the English language curriculum guide from the NOAA plan. This is from FACE. This is the same company that publishes the 1828 dictionary. And on page Roman numeral 9, we have cultivating reasoning through the grades. So I'm not going to cover kindergarten because quite frequently they're at a lot of different age levels in kindergarten. So I'm just going to focus on the primary, the middle, and the high school sections. And I love this second column right here where there's a metaphor of planting seeds in gardening. So the kindergarten is planting the seeds of all knowledge, and then the primary is tending the seedlings, sunning, weeding, watering, regulating, fertilizing, guarding, cultivating. There are a lot of really beautiful scriptures about how wise it is to garden and to plant seeds, and I'm sure you've all experienced how wonderful it is just to dig in the dirt and marvel at life springing forth. And then in the middle schools, it's talking about growing the plant, and that's the season of pruning, guiding, correcting, transplanting, maturing, seasoning, and hardying. And then in the high school, you're reaping the fruit, cycling growth, and harvesting. And so these are really good parallels of what we're doing as we're raising children in these different levels. Now, you'll see the next columns are research, reason, relate, and record. So if you've been working with the principle approach philosophies, you'll recognize the 4 R's and how that is what Rosalie Slater came up with when she began to analyze how the founding fathers learned on such a higher level than we do. Isn't it humbling? Because I think we have our cell phones and our computers and our rockets, I thought that we were so much smarter than them until I started systematically reading works that were written back at that time, and it's very humbling. It's amazing how I have to read everything 3 times to start to understand it. But in the 4 R's, you basically have the research, which they were the product of a great awakening in the 1730s, very similar to what's happening now. Isn't that exciting? But they reasoned biblically because they were the next generation from the 1730s, so they had been raised in the Bible. Most of them read through the Bible once a year. And so they reasoned from the Bible, and we're learning how to do that. We've been raised in a government school system where God isn't allowed, Bible reading isn't allowed, prayer isn't allowed, and it's unconscionable as a culture that we've let that happen, and we've let go of this beautiful heritage that God gave us, but we're returning to that now, aren't we? And so the research starts in the Word of God, and then you have the reasoning, relating, and recording. So what does that look like in the different age groups? Well, the primary school research, mastering the basic skills and vocabulary of each subject. So many people call this stage the grammar stage, where you're actually learning the vocabulary. It says in reasoning, understanding internal to external concrete thinking, using manipulative skill building. So this is when they're learning to read and write. So you've got those basic concrete thinking levels of learning going on. And then relating, recitation, rote. They love to memorize at this age, don't they? Expository writing, drama, guided projects. They need a lot of guidance, don't they? It's very time consuming at this stage because you're watching them learn how to write. You're listening to them learn how to read. And then recording. Of course, if you're familiar with the principal approach, we use the notebook method. There are so many references to a blank book or writing in a notebook when you read the founding fathers' biographies and autobiographies. It's really fascinating, isn't it? So it says the notebook as a tool of scholarship, notebook skills practiced and guided by the teacher. So as you're teaching this method to the primary school level, you really do have to guide them. So there might be words that you write that they trace at the very beginning. Maybe they write a word, maybe they write a very small sentence to start with. Maybe you give them a picture to color. So you're starting very basic and just nurturing them along, teaching them the order of the process, how to be faithful, how to take nice care of their notebooks, and you grade them for all those different aspects of notebook building and keeping. So fun. And then the middle school, okay, so that's usually 5th grade to 8th grade. And at this point, research focuses on defining the principles of the subject. So you're teaching them the scriptures for each subject, and then from those scriptures, how do they deduce principles? That's not an easy task, is it? A lot of adults in our present culture can't do that, but we're learning. And so then the reasoning skills, understanding cause to effect. In many schools, the children are taught that there is no cause to effect. They're taught to blame people, and they're taught little bits and pieces of social studies. There's not really a good overview where they're learning cause to effect. They're learning to question. They're learning logic, critical thinking, and the scientific method. Invaluable. And that's what they love at this age. This is really focused on how they love to learn best at this age. Then relating, you give them independent projects, essays, and have them do an original speech in the 8th grade. And so they rise to the occasion when you challenge them like that. And then recording, they're learning notebook mastery, a tool for lifelong independent learning. You're giving them the skills to be an independent learner. At this point, they still need a lot of guidance, but it's amazing how quickly and how at what young ages some of them are able to grasp these concepts and become independent. They want to be independent. And when you nurture that and scaffold them, especially as you're helping them discern their gifts, their talents, you're helping them develop their character, they love that. And very seldom do you have any pushback when you're preparing them for life and they know you're on their side. They know that you're preparing them to become independent. They see you as a mentor and someone who's going to apprentice them. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful relationship you're developing with your children and your students. So, and then the high school level, for research, they at this point are able to express the principles in life and learning. And at this point, they want to tell you, they want to express. So you're nurturing that and looking for different ways to pull it out of them. For reasoning, you're developing original thinking in them. They're actually reasoning from a biblical worldview, and they're able to express that. So you're really giving them opportunities to write well and to express. So it's a total focus on elocution, isn't it? Relating, you're giving them opportunities for apprenticeship, service, debate, rhetoric, creative writing and speech, independent primary source research, where you're letting them do the research, original science projects, portfolio projects, high school thesis, and defense. And I've seen some of the graduates at Stonebridge, which is a principal approach school, and their students are giving their thesis on a high school level that's graduate level work. It is so inspiring. And then for recording, the habit and spirit of organized learning and biblical scholarship has been inculcated, and they are amazing examples of the principal approach, and they are at that point ready to go into the fields, the callings that God has for them, and make disciples because they have been discipled well. So we're going to be talking more about this. This is from the English guide. So we're going to start giving lessons from this guide, and this will be going into a course that I'm developing. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you'll give me some feedback. Those of you that are members of the Teaching His Story community, give me some feedback. What do you need to hear more of? Do you have any questions, any comments, any suggestions? You know I love to hear from you. So please let me hear from you. And we'll talk more about this next week. Thank you, and God bless you.